Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and today I get to interview Christina. So Christina, welcome.
Thank you.
Christina, can you tell us your full type, please?
I'm INTP, FF, Ti-Ne, consume, sleep, play, blast. I'm sorry that took a long time. It's just it was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of sinking in.
Yeah, don't worry. So what did you think and how did you feel when you got your results back?
Generally pretty pleased, I think is the answer. I'd kind of looked into OP enough to know that I wasn't going to work it out for myself, you know, even though that's definitely what I would prefer to have done. And then when I got it, and I thought I was NF. That's the other thing. I was pretty sure I was NF. Never mind. And yeah, so then like for the next couple of days, I was like, I don't know if you've ever seen a video of or like an old cine film of one of those letter sorters machines. Like, so the letters come in and then they slip down into the slots, and so they go to the right address or whatever. And it really just felt like that to me, that having this type was just making everything just go slotting into place beautifully for me. So yeah, which is great. Yeah.
So pretty much all the pieces of the puzzle aligned. Yeah. You were typed as a decider. Can you talk about being a decider, like what it's like being a decider, you know, throughout your life, and you know, people being the main source of the problem as opposed to things. So what has your experience been like with that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize quite how much a decider I was until I did my video, my typing video, and I did it for cognitive resolution first. And what came back was there is literally no observer stuff in this video. Yeah, so yeah, my entire life revolves around working out who I am and working out how to relate to other people. You know, that's it. So I've got you know, so I went through quite a process of my relationship with my parents and my siblings and my like the groups at school, and you know, and then more lots of tribe stuff where I identify with being different from everyone else, and I did medicine, and I actually went into psychiatry because it was what people were experiencing, their DI, I guess, that was interesting to me rather than anything else. And what can I say? the you know, my later year, my more recent years have been all about, you know, whether I can be visible on the outside in the same way as I am on the inside, if you know what I mean, that there's some kind of rapprochement of the two things.
Because you're consume sleep, I guess for most of your life you kind of live in this introversion world, but then as you got older, you know, eventually people get bored of their saviors, right? And they start developing a fascination with their demons, and the demons is kind of more exciting, it's more challenging. So for you specifically, it's play and blast, and they're both connected with your feminine extrovert feeling. So do you feel like that fascination with connecting with others and being more, or being in touch with your extrovert side was something that you found more interesting now as where you are in your current life?
Oh God, yes. So I think yeah, there was a point in my career where I was senior enough that I could no longer pretend that I didn't have to do those things. I actually no, I actually, that's not quite fair to myself. So what happened is when I got my first ever job as a doctor, I realized how incredibly tedious it would be if I just did the job. And so I deliberately cultivated my play at that point to just simply to get through the bloody day, you know.
Right.
But your question was now. Yeah. So what I'm doing now is, like, hobby wise, is I'm learning what's it called? Not stand up, improvisation. You know, improv comedy. Okay,
Oh.
improv comedy. So there you go. That's a real play thing. And I'm writing a book. So there's the blast.
Right.
About, you know, my
Yeah.
stuff.
Right. Yeah, you are doing the play, the blast from
Yeah.
the sound of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, why don't we go over like the blast first? That's your blast last. The blast is also SF, so which is like popular or cool or controlling people's behaviors. How do
Yeah.
you personally see your SF blast? And I think your SF blast is also double feminine. So
Yes, it is. Yeah.
it's not only your fourth animal, it's also double feminine, which would make it even more challenging. So what has been your?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about what that means exactly. The double feminineness of it.
Well, you know, your introvert sensing is feminine, and then your extrovert feeling is feminine, so it makes it double feminine essentially. And then when something is double feminine, there is that it's not as confident as a masculine function, but it's more flexible, so it has its pros and cons.
Right.
So because yours is double feminine, it's flexible and it doesn't come across as very aggressive,
Yeah.
but it also lacks that confidence. Do you see that in yourself when you're
So much.
last?
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah. In fact, I was thinking one of the things that I was really proud of when I did one of these panel, like, really complicated job assessments, and they said that they had to coin a new phrase for me, which was nice assertive. And I was so proud. I was like, you know, because that's it, isn't it? That's the SF, being nice assertive.
Right.
Yeah, so that's, you know, being blasting is not something I almost have a philosophical prohibition against it, if you know what I mean. You know, I mean, I'm sure that I'm not the first INTP to say this, but I actually feel like it's not kind of almost morally right to tell people what to do, like to influence them against their DI, I guess it is. So which can get in the way sometimes.
I think with SF Blast, like from the INTPs that I've seen, you know, dabbling in that SF Blast, it's more like the pleasantries that they're using it with. So if they have like a guest over, they will use the SF Blast to kind of make someone feel comfortable. Be like, oh, would you like to have some tea, some cookies? You know, if you have some guests staying over at your place, you know, you can get show them a nice, comfortable bedroom for them to sleep in. You know, it's just like more of like the pleasantries.
I do that stuff. I did that at work as well. I kind of made a point of treating people like welcome. Like they were welcome,
right?
You know, so that they would feel more, welcome and trusting. You know. and maybe take my advice.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes sense too, because like if people like you, they take you more seriously too, right? So it's kind of an interesting,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that, but that was like part of my my developing my own what's the word? You are, there's my feminine sensory there.
Yeah.
Present, my own power in my role, you know, if you know what I mean.
You're because you're black but you work as a doctor, or so it's kind of
Well,
yeah, it's kind of interesting, because like as a doctor you do have to tell people what they need to do in order to stay healthy, so you do have to blast to them. Did you find it challenging for you to give orders to patients and whatnot?
yeah, very. So actually what I used to do is I used to put the options in front of them and tell them which I thought they should choose, but it was up to them, you know, almost always it was up to them.
Right.
Yeah, it made it more difficult when I was having to, you know, tell the nurses what to do. It was more difficult.
Because you're lead NT and your second savior is ST, did you find that when you were studying medicine that the studying part was not the hardest thing, but actually when you started working, it was more of the challenge when you had to apply your knowledge? Or
that's an interesting question. I was never that kind of study person. I used to, it's a bit embarrassing to say actually, because I don't think it's very good, but I used to do the classic thing of working out the principles and forget, you know, and thinking I didn't have to know the rote stuff. And it does, you know, it does work most of the time, as long as you're not kind of a surgeon. But yeah, it's not the best way of learning medicine, I think. Doing it, actually, no, I didn't find any particular problem doing it. No, I guess that's the double observing thing.
right, that makes a lot of sense. I guess it also made sense of what you said, that if as long as you're not a surgeon, then it's not as big of a deal, because I guess if you are a surgeon, it would be better to be a sensory type of personality, because the precision is important. But if you're just helping the general population, then it's not.
Or if it's yeah, the rest that like you don't need to remember the names of things or the doses of things, because you can just have a routine that you always look it up before you prescribe it,
Right. I guess, and I guess you have reference that you can always refer to, so you don't need to memorize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Your first animal is NT. It's double masculine, so
yeah,
it's extremely aggressive and confident, and it's your first. How do you? It's also double activated, so you're double activated, double masculine, NT. Consume. How do you personally experience that?
Yeah, well, I was slightly blown away by being consumed first, but and by being double masculine. I come across to people as soft. I think. And in fact, that was something that was rather surprising to me when I made my video, was that actually there's a bit of steel there, which I hadn't, I didn't know. So double masculine entity, yeah. So I am that person who, if somebody says something, yeah, I was thinking actually of getting a T-shirt that says, it's a bit more complicated than that. you know, so I'm that person who says that.
Right.
And even, you know, and I'm more and more aware that I say those things when it does kill the vibe, you know, I do.
Right.
I'm embarrassed to say.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you say it enough, it can become SF because it can become a meme, you know, and then
Yeah, I guess.
yeah, so it's one of those things where yeah, it could
Yeah.
start out as NT, but it could become SF.
Yeah,
If it
okay.
catches, yeah, if it catches on.
If it was really a pretty t-shirt.
Yeah, but with NT, I get, so we're both NT, and you know, as a lead NT myself, I think figuring things out has never been the biggest life problem for me. You know, like
Okay.
I've always been able to figure things out, especially if it's on the fly because it's play. Yours is consume. So
Yeah.
have you also noticed the same thing about yourself where figuring something out was never the biggest challenge of your life? It was something like eventually you could figure things out, and or is that something that is still a challenge because you still have to try to figure out the people stuff, you know, because it could.
Yeah. So the way I see it is figuring most things out. I find it difficult to understand why people find it so hard. You know, most things. But figuring myself out is a never-ending, you know, joy and frustration. You know, so that's where I am. Yeah, I mean, I suppose, and maybe I've got a huge, massive blind spot about the tribe, but I feel as though I kind of, I mean, I know I definitely, I just treat the tribe's odd behavior as just something, you know, another object to figure out.
Right. Another puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So
I think I'm pretty good at like working out where people are coming from generally, kind of thing.
well, I would assume so since you work with people all day, you know, with your,
Well, I hope so. Yeah, after 30
yeah,
years, I should be able
yeah,
to.
yeah. So the one thing we both have in common is our animal stack has the same letters, you could say. So we're both NT first, ST second,
Okay.
NF third, and SF fourth. So that's, I mean, different order, of course, but those are like the specific flavors. And in each of those flavors kind of dictate the strengths and weaknesses that you have cultivated in your life, you know, as well as your fascination, you know. So, you know, as mentioned before, typically demons is what you're fascinated with. Earlier, you thought you were an NF, right? Which makes sense.
Yeah,
So obviously, it would be something that would fascinate you.
and that's my hobbies, NF hobbies.
Right, exactly. Being a hippie is your hobby. So,
Yeah.
can you talk about like that specific order where like the NT is first, and that's never been like the biggest problem, followed by ST, which kind of supports the NT, and that also has been more or less okay.
It's fine. Yeah, S2 is fine. You know, I can do stuff like that standing on the head. And
So let's go tackle the ST first before we, you know, go down the list. We already talked about NT. For ST, yours is sleep. That means it's correlated with competence, you know, and being able to build things yourself, like having the ability to construct or build or be
yeah,
competent at doing your job essentially. And it's physical, right? Because it's sensory.
yeah.
How do you personally experience that ST sleep of yours?
I basically think that if something's interesting enough to me, that I can do it in the physical, well, in the physical world. Yeah. So, you know, so I have like, is that what you mean?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of it's like a multifaceted question, really, kind of open-ended at the same time.
Okay.
But you know, like I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
You know, for like ESFJs, which would be your opposite, you know, a lot of them, their biggest fear is coming across as incompetent because they, you know,
Right.
they might have TI at the bottom, and sleep might not be their savior. So those that have ST sleep tend to be pretty confident at being competent
Yeah.
at their job and stuff. So that's not like a area of insecurity, right? So how do you personally experience that ST sleep of yours when you're doing like the actual work? And because it's sleep, it's personal too, right? So
Yeah. I guess I do. Okay. So so being a sleep person, I realized very early on that I was going to have to do something in order to be able to sustain a long day at work, and the way it was set up in those days, it was quite hard to have rests. So I decided that the thing to do was to be fit, and so I just decided, I worked out what the, is this what you're after? I worked out what the what the N of the current I suppose the current SF fitness regime was, and just applied it to myself. Is that what you mean? So,
not exactly, but I like your answer because it was it's very practical and applicable.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I still like it.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, I'm finding it hard to know what you're thinking, what you're meaning.
it was an abstract question, so
Okay.
it's all right if it was kind of confusing. Okay, well, what I'm trying to get at is how did you feel about your sense of confidence with you being competent at your job? Like, was it an area?
Oh yeah. I mean, generally, I feel very competent, but I do have a fear. I have a fear of the tribe in my job. I have a kind of if I forget something or do something wrong, then somebody would die. I would get struck off. It would be my fault. So that there's a kind of fear. There's a big fear there, if you know what I mean. But it's a tribe fear, not a thing fear.
Is it a judgment kind of fear, like fear of judgment? Because like
Yeah.
according to Dave and Shan, double observers, they have the gathering and the organizing in the middle. So if you haven't figured that out, then you feel like you would get judged because that's such a no-brainer thing to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
And I also do think, I do compare myself to other people, and think that that they're probably more competent than I am, although I do feel competent.
I see. So you're always ranking yourself among your peers to see where you stand.
Yeah, and sometimes I rank myself quite high, and sometimes quite low, depending.
I see. And when would you rank yourself high, and when would you rank yourself low?
Oh God, this is quite. Yeah. Okay. So I rank myself high when my team is working well together. Yeah, so that's a good question. And I rank myself low. When I have what I think of as a near miss.
A near miss?
A near miss, yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it's from airline pilots,
Right.
If you almost crash, then it's an important piece of information that needs to be followed up. So if I almost make a mistake, then, or if I make a mistake that's picked up by somebody else, then,
How often would you make those mistakes? Because
very rarely.
yeah,
Very rarely. Yeah.
okay, because you're energy dominant, you're not info dominant, right? So
Yeah.
I do notice that those who are energy dominant, they try to be info dominant, but it's almost like even though you try your best, there's still like it's still a blind spot. It's kind of weird. It's like even when the effort is being exerted, it's still
Yeah.
there's still like some sort of a blind spot happening.
Yeah.
So like, do you find that has happened to you where like yes, you did try your best to be as accurate as possible, but there was still something you miss, regardless
Oh
of the
yeah, that happens. That happens to me quite a lot in my life, and actually at work. You know, there are certain people in certain jobs who are very, very good at the detail and I used to find that really annoying. So pharmacists particularly, and who was the other people? Oh well, secretaries and good ones, and so I used to find that really annoying that they were just being picky about the little things, and then I realised actually they're saving my bacon.
Yeah.
You know. So once I realised that, I actually deliberately stopped booking people into my diary because I was so bad at it. Partly because I didn't think it was that important. But I was just like continually double booking people or booking people in on my holiday or whatever. So eventually I just handed it over to somebody who was better at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go find like an ISTJ secretary to
Yeah,
deal with that.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. They'll be a billion times better than you at that, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all
Yeah.
I have to do is I have to put up with their, boringness. So
Yeah.
sorry, I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that.
Call the ICJs boring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's the SI, isn't it?
Right.
It's a bit aversive for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not all boring, but
No, of course
yeah,
not. Of course not.
yeah. But
It's my problem, not theirs.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. My girlfriend is energy dominant, and when we travel, she's always missing some documents, so I have to make sure I have everything prepared for her, and I'll try to make her panic a little bit, so it's kind of like as a self amusement. I'm like, do you have this document? Because otherwise you're not going to be let in this country. She's like, oh. I'm like, just like watch her sweat a little bit, and I'm like, no, don't worry, I got it for you. Like
You're so mean.
yeah.
That's really mean.
Yeah, I'm just trolling my girlfriend, but it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, I do have a tendency to forget something. Like I went to play tennis the other day, and I was halfway down the road and realized I didn't have my tennis racket with me. And it just happens a lot for me. And actually I have a different problem with going on holiday, which is that because being TI, I also absolutely resist my husband looking after the passports for me. It's my passport, I will carry it, but it does mean that it's a bit of a risk there. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. It could also be the SI, because like objects are personal, and then TI is your identity. So the passport is your identity, and it's an object.
Yeah.
So it's like a double whammy. Yeah.
No, it's the independence. It's like it's my life.
Yeah, it's for me. It's the opposite. My girlfriend trying to give me her stuff. I'm like, no, you carry your own stuff. I don't want to be responsible for your things.
Yeah.
Like it's like because I'm an EP, right? Like I don't want to be responsible for other people.
Yeah.
Like no. You carry your own stuff. I'll have some documents ready in case you fall flat on your face because you're not info dominant. But otherwise, you carry your own stuff. I don't want to, I don't want to be responsible if you lose it. I do want to ask you about being blast last. So one of the things I noticed with blast last individuals is the indecisiveness. So can you talk about being indecisive even though you are lead DI? Like,
I don't know.
would you say you're indecisive?
Can't decide.
Yeah. No, I mean, would you say you're indecisive?
Yeah, I am. I think other people would say I am or that I change my mind a lot.
Yeah.
Which yeah, it's more that it takes me. So it takes me, if it's something that it really matters to me personally, what decision I make, then it takes a long time for me to work it out, what I really think. I have to kind of give it the information and then let it percolate somehow. But then I'm sure. When I'm sure, I'm sure. You know, I think it's an authenticity thing.
Right. I guess masculine DI means you can still make decisions for yourself, but maybe you take a little bit longer than most people because you want to keep your options open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making decisions for other people, which is obviously part of my job. That's the indecisiveness. That's what I was talking about basically when we were talking about my fear.
Right.
Is that you know, that's that it's difficult for me to decide because I'm afraid of making the wrong decision for somebody else. You know, when I don't really feel it's right in a way for me to make a decision for someone else at all.
Well, you're not called a single decider for nothing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
good one.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about your NF next. Your NF play. Do you? I noticed that a lot of INTPs do like working with others in collaboration. There is like a sense of, I don't know the best word to use here, but like I guess you get a sense of purpose or meaning or something along those lines, where working with others feels more meaningful, feels more engaging. I don't know if that's true for you or not, but it's just some things I've noticed with some INTPs that, you know, with that NF play, it's like collaboration is something that is looked fondly on as opposed to something.
Yeah. 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 I think for me it's like it's, you know, it comes from feeling different, and just having a place where you're collaborating playfully with other people makes me feel like I belong, you know, even though I'm different.
So is a sense of belonging something that you long for? Is that something that you seek, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, so I teach mindfulness because I got into Zen in my 50s, and it gave me that. It gave me a kind of a more fundamental feeling of belonging than the kind of superficial what happened today kind of feeling.
Right. Okay, so I have a funny question for you. So you said that you feel like you're different.
Yeah.
When you've seen other INTPs that are the same type as you, do you still feel like you're different?
Yeah. I know. I had a look at, because you've already had a Bill Gates lookalike.
Yeah, I think I've interviewed a few consume sleep play plus INTPs. Yeah.
And it was quite, so I had a look back at a couple of them, and all I was doing was picking out how we were different from each other.
Right.
But no, probably, I mean, obviously we'd get on, you know, I'm sure we'd get on well with each other. Is that if that's what you mean?
You know, the one thing I've noticed is that I've never actually seen INTPs like hanging out with each other. You know, it's like, do you find it weird that if you were with someone that's kind of like the same neighborhood as you to like hang out, you know, like another INTP, for example? Because if they were like an ISTP, it's still different enough because they're very sensory and you're very intuitive. So you still have your own place. your own differences. But if you're both INTP, you're kind of like fighting for the same role, you know?
Oh, I see what. No, actually, I don't agree with that. Because I think so that there is a thing about that we each have our own area of interest, don't we? And if there's no overlap, do we still have a conversation? And for some, when you're young, the answer is no. We don't have anything to talk about. But now I actually do. I have a couple of friends who are INTP, and it's just really restful for them to they tell me about their thing and I tell them about my thing.
Oh, it's like a DI exchange or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least we're interested in the same like niggly points about each other's stuff.
Right. I guess also if your INTP friend was like the extroverted version, like the consume play or like the sleep blast play, then it would still be quite different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to ask you about being energy dominant again. So energy dominant are supposed to be goofballs. Do you find yourself to be like very goofy and
I don't know. I don't see myself as that, but yeah, people laugh at me sometimes, but my children hate it walking down the street with me because I'm quite likely to start skipping or something. Is that what you mean?
yeah, it's just that they're more goofy. They just don't want to take things seriously. They just want to have fun.
Yeah.
I
think fundamentally I am quite a serious person, but yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess your family member would best answer that question.
Yeah. Actually, as part of my OPS kind of experience, it's just like a roller coaster. I asked my family members to tell me, how they saw me and what my worst points were and whatever, and they really did. Everything they said was projection. There was no actual I can see you. It was quite amazing.
I want to ask you about your masculine extrovert intuition. That one is an interesting function. The more I study OPS and looking at people who are successful, there seems to be a strong correlation between success and those with masculine extrovert intuition. Like that seems to be like a golden function, and I want to know what or how you personally experience your masculine extrovert intuition, because it's a gathering function, right? Like you're gathering concepts and patterns. But the difference between masculine and feminine is that with the feminine, they tend to forget the patterns and concept they've gathered. Like me, I have unless I put it on my SI, I would forget. Or you are also more confident with the patterns and concepts that you are observing. So can you talk about that a little bit and like your confidence with that masculine extrovert intuition? Like,
yeah, I don't okay, so I don't have any choice, obviously. It's the way I see everything. And it is the way I see everything. So it's like how people are constantly splitting things up into different boxes, and I don't see things that way. I think if something's got the same pattern as something else, then there is a relationship, and it's like a visual. It is a visual relationship to me, that they kind of superimpose themselves on each other. It's hard to talk about. in any way other than to just say, you know, it's just like that. And it means that so I wasn't sure whether I was NI or NE, and one of the reasons for that is because the patterns that I see are also, they're not just here and now or in the past, they are also going off into the future. So I can, you know, what was it that happened recently? Oh yeah, it doesn't, it was a trivial example, but yeah, so I can, my husband's NI first, and we quite often see the same, make the same projections into the future as each other, but just from different directions. So he's doing it because he has this, you know, universal model, and I do it because it's just like the thing that always happens, you know.
With NE also, you can kind of see multiple pathways moving on to the future. And because it's masculine, you can strongly perceive which is the best option to take, which pathway to take. And the opposite of the NE is the SI. So the SI is feminine. That means how you get there is flexible. As long as you pick that specific path.
Yeah.
As long as you, so do you resonate with that?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so.
Okay. Because
so other people are kind of put off by one of their steps not going right, but I kind of pride myself on innovating around the blockage, you know.
Right. That's why I think masculine NE comes across as very NI like, because like, you know, with NI, they try to stick to one path, and they'll do whatever it takes to follow that path, even if they have to disrespect the sensory, right? So I think that's why masculine NE can come across very NI-ish, because your SI is feminine, so the steps to get there is flexible, so it kind of looks very NI-like. The big difference though is like with masculine NE, you've actually looked at all the different options first before you selected that one. Because with NI, they didn't even look at the option, right? Like those with lead NI, they just like, yeah, this is the right one, you know. But for you,
I think maybe, but to be honest, it's so fast. It's often so fast that I'm not really aware I've looked at all the options, you know.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's so fast that
But for me, the downside is potential, is probably obvious to you, but which is that if you innovate around too many of, like if you innovate around blocks and you're counting on being able to do that, then you never actually do the maintenance that you need to do to make it smooth in the first place.
What do you mean maintenance?
The SI the SI maintenance of the things.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess if you're only going to that direction once, then it's not a big it's not a big deal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But if you're gonna have to repeat that same pathway multiple times, then you better have a masculine SI, otherwise it's gonna be very inefficient.
Yeah.
Because you know you're gonna be winging it.
And actually I think for me that's a play over blast thing as well.
Right.
Is that I'm gonna just go for something without pausing to think, well, have I got everything I need before I've started?
Right. So I guess for you, you thought it through before you proceeded. So it's that's like one way to make the pathway more efficient, because you've thought it through first before you proceeded. Even though you're
I don't always do that. Though.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah. It's you know what I like about type is everyone's a walking contradiction, right? Because like like you could potentially be trying to do that. The keyword is trying, but because the SI is feminine, it's like you know, it's like it's pretty flexible, right? So okay. I want to ask you a question about ST sleep again. So you kind of talked about it earlier already, how you took care of your fitness in order for you to have more energy. So when you go to work and stuff, you can you know, as you said, you can get through a long day,
Mhm.
uh, which makes sense, right? Like the more healthy you are, the higher your battery levels are.
Yeah.
So can you talk about what your health routine was like, you know, before when you were in the workforce? I'm guessing now you're not working as a
No, that's right. I'm retired. Yeah.
right. So how was your routine changed when you were in the workforce versus now that you're retired? You know, do you still follow a similar routine, or you've kind of changed it a little bit?
Uh, uh, yeah, it's actually more consistent now. Um, because when I was working, there would be times when I was just too tired. You know, I felt I was just too tired to go for a run or whatever, and I would not go. But what worked best for me was to use my journey to work as the cardio part of my job, of my regime. So I used to cycle to work an hour each way
Oh wow.
in London, so not very fast. But so when I stopped working, I didn't have that anymore. So I had to make a decision about what kind of cardio to do. And I still do cycle twice a week. I do 2 hours. Am I making you laugh?
No, no, I was just laughing at when you said that you had to cycle to work in London, and I was thinking, oh my God, London, like you guys have horrible weather there, so it's not only like I would assume it's not a pleasant experience because it could be rainy, foggy, dark, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, you are born and bred here. I have a certain amount of you know, heroic feelings about going out in the rain.
Oh, really? Okay. What if it's did you still cycle in the snow? Because you know it would be snowing in winter, right?
No, it very rarely snows. It's very rarely, because although it's quite far north, um, there's a Gulf Stream that keeps the weather
Right.
um, very mild.
Okay, fair enough.
So it would only be like twice a year that there would be snow on the ground.
So those would be the times you would not cycle
I
to
would go on
work.
the bus. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Um, and when you had to break your routine, did it bother you? Like, let's say it did snow, you had to go take the
No,
bus. It wasn't a big deal.
no. So the way I think about it is um, twice a week strength and 5 or 6 times a week cardio, and it didn't matter which day.
Oh, I see. So if you had to take the bus, then that would be the strength day then.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
do
Or whatever you
do
felt
it
like it.
whenever. And you know, some weeks it would be 4 days, and some other weeks it would be 7 days.
I see. As long as you did it, I guess. Then
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
I see. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but now I'm more I'm less tolerant of my own wimpiness, and so I will be a bit more consistent, um,
I see.
even on days when I'm not really excited about going out.
Yeah. So you're more regimented now than
Or
before.
I'm more, yeah, I'm just more. It's just I've got less of a grip on myself, and it actually makes it easier.
I want to ask you. So we're gonna wrap up the interview soon. So I have a few like
Oh,
rapid fire questions. So the first one or first two is your sexual modalities. Your tester and visual. So tester is correlated with smell,
yeah.
which is also taste. Can you talk about your relationship with like scents and like food and like trying different scents and food out? Like, was that something that you pursued
Yeah.
in your
So
life?
I don't particularly relate to being I suppose, you know, I will try anything, but I guess, but I definitely have a very sensitive sense of taste and smell, and so I can tell if like what was I thinking? Oh yeah, I could tell there was a mouse in the house because of the smell. And I can I prefer very, very subtle flavors. You know, unfortunately my husband likes curry and Tabasco sauce and stuff, but and he really can't taste the things that I like. It's weird that he can't taste them at all. But I remember I saw one interview where you were talking about scented candles, and I, as a tester thing, and I actually dislike scented candles because it's too strong. The smell's too strong, and it's covering up the kind of natural variation in the smells in the room.
Maybe that's like the SI version of the tester, because I noticed that the SE and SI testers there's some differences.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like with SI there's like your favorite scent or your favorite taste, you know. Well, for SE it's like I have to try everything. I have to
yeah,
try
no, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yes, you just reminded me. The other thing is that my garden, I planted it deliberately with scented plants.
But
that I like.
Those are the scents that you like, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lilac and
right,
stuff.
right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it's there's still that sensitivity to smell that you both share, except one is more aggressive at the spectrum, while one is like the favorite. You know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one. What about your so your tester, and then the second one is visual. Can you talk about, you know, being visual second? Like, how do you do you learn best from what you see?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that helped me learn in medical school was that where I could see where things were on the page, like, and I can still see, like, whatever, however many decades later, where, like, the posture and where the lecturer was in the lecture theatre when they were talking about a particular thing. So that that's definitely a visual thing, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. I did interview someone before where they said they can screenshot like textbooks. So when they go do an exam, they have everything memorized. Is that something you can do also?
No, not quite that much. It's more in blocks, but that would be an N thing, I guess, rather than an S thing.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, that's definitely a superpower to have.
Yeah. No, but I can tell you which part of the page it's on.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. That's a good power. Except maybe the numbers and letters are foggy.
Yeah.
So it's like a paradox then.
Oh no, and if I really want to get something into my brain, I will draw a diagram, I'll draw a diagram.
All right. To wrap up this interview, do you have any questions for me that you would like to ask before we wrap this up?
No, just to say it's been really fun, and thanks for asking me.
Sounds good. All right, so Christina, thanks for coming out and doing this interview and sharing more about yourself, especially since you are retired. So you've had like a long career and a long life, so you've had the time to think things through. You know, more so than even those who are save your sleep. So I think that's a good thing. Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening in London, and see you around the group.
Thank you. Have a great day.